never be satisfied. Well, what does that mean? Tell me one other area in your life that would be a good thing, to never be satisfied. I'm never satisfied with my kids. I'm never satisfied with my wife. I'm never satisfied. It's like, no, you should be satisfied with what you're doing.
The Move Entrepreneur Evolved Podcast. Get on it.
And we're back with the Moved Entrepreneur Evolved Podcast. I'm excited today. I have got my man, Aaron O'Connell, with Why to Fitness. What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you doing, Jason?
I'm doing pretty good. It's an easy go-to when you're like, here's the weather. So I'll tell you the weather in San Diego. I don't see the sun. It's not like the postcards they always tell you about. But I'll say it's a little chillier as usual. As you can see, I'm wearing this thing right here, but not bad, man. How about you? How's everything out your way?
Well, I'm in sunny South Florida, so I do got the sun, which I usually do, but it's a little bit colder, it's just like you. So we're down into like the high 60s, low 70s for the day. Which is about the coldest it's really going to get. We might get a little bit colder than that, but it's a great day here. Always sunny here, and just celebrating God and just all that the good Lord creates for us, man.
That's cool, man. It sounds like you have yourself a passion, you have a purpose, and I always like that kind of stuff when people get on here. So I'm going to jump right into this, man. I'm going to just ask something that comes up, I'm sure. Either it comes with religion or it comes with whatever.
Yeah.
And in this scenario, you combine the two, fitness. What is it about, and I'll kind of put this here, that your clientele, we talk about business on here and trying to work with clients and really try to help them excel and get them through the process. And there's obviously a transformation that you take people through. And I'm not going to, dive into my side of like religion or Christianity, anything like that. But as a whole, when you start to work with clients and you start to work with people that have maybe a Christian background, and you look at it and say, look, health and fitness, I've got to transform that person. What are some things that you look at and going, hey, you know what? I can kind of attach, I can attach X, Y, Z with this, because there might be some things that people hold themselves back, this maybe doesn't mean that much to me. So what is it you think holds people back that maybe have religious beliefs to put themselves into fitness, I guess you would say?
Well, one of the biggest things that trip many Christians up, or really anyone, is that they're not aligning what they're doing with their values. So they have these values. So that's why I do only work with Christians, because then we have the value book called the Bible that we base our truth on. It's absolute truth. That's what we all agree on. So if we can agree that the Bible is absolute truth, that's something we can build off of. So in the Bible, it will say stuff like, hey, have no other gods before me, have no idols. Well, what is an idol? An idol is something that you hold above God, because God should be number one. So a lot of people will all of a sudden start looking at health and fitness, and they start making it an idol. They start making it being the thing that makes them feel better. It's the thing that makes them feel like they're enough, because most people have goals that are backwards looking. They get into things to not be something. They want to not be depressed. They want to not be fat. They want to not feel less than. Well, the only thing in the Bible it says that's going to satisfy is God. But then they start looking at diets, they start looking to all these man-made workouts, and then they start struggling with them. They start trying to become like the world, you see, and it says right there in Romans 12, do not copy the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So true transformation is going to happen from the renewing of the mind, not by just picking up another way to lose weight, because let's be real, man. You can go onto Google and search 9 million ways to get fit. to eat. You can find your macros. You can find all these ways, but the problem then becomes is how do they stay consistent with it? How can they make it their own? Because it's our own race to run. So that's what really Y2 Fitness does, is we get to the nitty gritty of what actually means something to them, which should be meaning their purpose in life, why they were created, what they were on their plates, and not so much put their life into fitness, but put fitness into their life so fitness can serve them.
Yeah, I think that it's always interesting because I don't want to say there's a lazy aspect to it, but it's very easy to probably say, and as, I mean, yourself, you're a business owner, and as you're trying to build a business, you're also looking at who your clientele is. And you look at some of the things that people are, identified as struggles. When it comes to this part, and you've identified, hey, I work with Christians and anything like that, and my assumption would be that if somebody needed your help, I'm sure that wouldn't be a denier. You're not going to help them. I don't get that vibe from you. No. But I think that how has that helped in, on a sense of entrepreneurship, being able to really just niche down and work with just those people? What was there did you ever try it just fitness?
So yeah, definitely getting to micro niches is so important, especially nowadays, and especially online, because if you're just trying to be fitness, you don't mean anything. You're literally just Google all over again, starting to spout these facts and these facts. But most people aren't really looking for that change, that quick change. They say they are, that those lose the 30 pounds. No, they're usually looking to feel important. They're usually trying to reduce a struggle. There's something much more deeper than just the fitness aspect of it. So you really need to niche down for sure. And I started a long time ago. I've been training for well over a decade, and did just throw the cast net out there back when. And you all of a sudden get old ladies, young girls, old men, young men, and there's so many different types of of goals that there's no loyalty then, because let's be real, doctors are still practicing. So what do you think personal trainers and nutritionists are doing? They're guessing, maybe at best at some of them, but really it's about getting to know that person, what their real struggles are, what their real obstacles are, because it's not about what you can do for a short amount of period of time or a long period of time to get you to where you want to go. Because if you get on something, you got to get off. No, what's more important is how you fail at stuff, how you get off of things, because those obstacles, they're always going to come, whether it be your family, whether it be a sickness, an injury, work, whatever obligation that may be, those are always going to happen. So if you can start figuring out how you start failing at things, then you can start building systems around that. And usually when you're failing as a Christian, it's usually some form of attack from the devil. It's some spiritual warfare that's going on that comes out of left field. So instead of trying to just hunker down onto the world, you then start saying, hey, how can I give this to God? What is a way that I can not have this emotional response? Because it's usually the response that kills you, not the actual event. It's what you end up doing afterwards and getting off the rails. Because if you just have something come out of left field but hop right back onto the track, it's usually no harm, no foul, no matter where you are in business and health, or whatever niche you're in or industry you're in. But it's really about figuring out those obstacles and those challenges that are presented. And within the Christian community, that's where I really start excelling with them, is because, hey, the obstacles are actually fitness itself. They're saying stuff like, it's all about you. It's you versus you. Well, that sounds like you have bipolar disease or something like that. Never be satisfied. Well, what does that mean? Tell me one other area in your life that would be a good thing, to never be satisfied. I'm never satisfied with my kids. I'm never satisfied with my wife. I'm never satisfied. It's like, no, you should be satisfied with what you're doing.
And ironically, it is actually, it's actually very common to not be satisfied, right? And I think it's especially if either type A personality, someone that is a driver, someone that wants more. There's a sense of like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be satisfied. Talk about here to Tim Grover. He was
I've heard of him.
Michael Jordan's. He did the book Winning, and then he also did. He just released Relentless.
I've read Relentless. That's where the name comes from. He was also Kobe's, Bryant's trainer as well, wasn't he? Yeah.
And it's a great book. And I think that one of the things, and you bring this up, is like never being able to be satisfied. I think that there's something else that's there. I think that maybe satisfied sits at, and I say this even out of my own personal experiences, would be like, never being satisfied is like always pinning at about 8,000 RPMs. And you're just never satisfied. But the reality is that if you kind of step off a little bit, then there's really that's what he talks about in Relentless and Winning, is that the mindset is saying, wait a minute, it's not going to be satisfied on what the dopamine is right now. However, what it is you need to go and actually chunk this thing down and actually go for something that has those failure points. And I think does that sound kind of what you're talking about? It's like, there's these little failures that go through. What is it in your business model that as you go through this, how hard do you feel that you can push someone, and this is just interesting, in that community? I definitely wouldn't say it's a soft community. I wouldn't mean that at all. But you do carry more people that maybe are empaths as well inside that community. This happens in anything. If it's a financial person that's helping them coach through finances or whatever it is, how do you find yourself working with people? Because I think that's what people do anyway, right? This is kind of the age of transformation. I mean, everybody probably is trying to do better, right? I mean, that's been around for years. But there really is this outward sense. You can see it. I mean, you're on the online and it's like gone from there. So how do you find yourself positioning yourself, especially with that community, and not breaking them? Because there's obvious, I don't know, I think there's certain things people would do that are just relentless that you'd be like, I don't want to be that way. How do you find yourself in that position?
So really, that's what the great thing with my community is, and within the Christian community, is you have Jesus. You have Jesus modeling everything of how we were supposed to handle pretty much every single type of confrontation to any type of situation that there is. He was the greatest model of that. So we always dive right back into the Bible, but on more of a physical sense of things is, even within the Christian community, you still get all the different types of players. You get the ones that want, I need direction right now, and then you get the ones that can't follow the direction worth their life. Yeah. You see, but that's why I had to step away from personal training, from blanket training. Just, hey, so many trainers out there / health coaches, they're results based. And all the coaches that even help out trainers, online trainers, tell you should be results based. You're selling a product, which is to lose weight, this or that. Well, within my community, it's not to latch on to just losing weight. It doesn't make sense because there's so much more to it. So through that, I've built out a whole program for them where it takes them through video series, have all your modules, just like any type of online training system that there is that's more upscale. But really, you have to get so defined into their why to fitness. You see, that's why I call my business, that is why they're doing it in the first place. And if you start asking people why they need to get bigger, why they need to get lose weight, all these different things. They start saying stuff that has nothing to do with the gym, but everything about their quality of their life, about their kids, about their jobs, about their energy levels, about their health, and those types of things. So a lot of times I'll get a lot of people coming in thinking they want to lift weights or get on these diets and do all these things, but as you start working with them, it has nothing to do with that. It's more to do with they want to feel like they're enough. They want to just know that they are doing enough to feel good about themselves. That's why people will walk in and pay $700-800 to some fat trainer at a gym and get no results for a whole year. They'll go get a little bit, but all they're really searching for is that pat on the back. Well done. But if it's all based on worldly things, well, that's why we go right back to the Bible again. We're not supposed to put our treasure into the world. We're not citizens of the world here. So it's always taking within my community focus off of the world and off of themselves and onto Christ. And when you do that, that's when he's able to step in and meet you in the gap. And when you can get somebody that is so gung-ho about working out, because that's one type of client where they need to work out. If they don't work out, they feel like crap. They feel they go crazy or whatever it is. Well, then they're basing their whole life on, and their quality of life is if they get into the gym, if they diet this way, which then that's going to be a total different path than somebody that's struggling to get into the gym because they're too busy with their kids. So really that methodology that I do and that I help so many people with is meeting them where they're at and starting at where they are, because you can't give any type of advice, especially health advice, without knowing where they are. It would be like going into a GPS and not letting it know where you are, but plugging in the coordinates to go to where you want to go.
Yeah.
You're not going to get there,
yeah.
because if I'm in Florida and you're in California, you see, and I think, and you want to go to New York, but you think, exactly. You're in California, you're trying to go to New York, you better start heading northeast. But if you think you're in Florida and you're in California, you're just going to start heading up north, and then you're going to be in Washington when you think you're in New York, and halfway through, you're going to be going through Northern Cal. You're going to be like, wait a minute, this isn't even what I want. This isn't even making me feel better. This isn't even making me feel the way that I thought. So many people will be trying to get healthy for their kids, and then all of a sudden they're more tired, or they want to make their husbands or their wives more attracted to them, but then they lose all this weight, and then they're not even getting that result. They're not fulfilled by it. And that's the greatest failure. The greatest failure isn't failing. The greatest failure is to get what you want, but be unfulfilled by it.
I've talked about this before on the podcast, and it was many people become Olympic champions, and the day after they get the gold, they're miserable. I think there's also something, what you're saying is important for people to, have something that's bigger even than the thing that you're doing. And it's like, okay, I gotta, when this is done, I gotta have something next, or I'm going to be lost. And people do panic about that. Like, I don't know. Well, I mean, it happens with people that are retiring, right? I'm going to retire. I'm so excited. What am I going to do? Yeah. And I think that there's something there that people, start to look at. I remember I've never had this. I've worked out my whole life. I've been, doing things that keep me as fit as possible. I mean, I drink lemon water every single day. Yeah. I boil turmeric, and I go that whole process. But for the first time in my life, I hadn't had this ever. And this was only about probably 3 months ago. And I had gone to yoga, and I realized I came home and I was like, I've never had this in my head. And it wasn't yoga. It just was something. And I've never had that feeling that I was like, I have to actually schedule this. Like, this has got to be, I don't know what happened. Maybe my body, my brain, whatever it is, as I'm getting older, it was basically saying, you need this. And if you don't have this, then you're not very happy. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that. What's your thoughts on kind of that process.
What do you first explain just a little bit further what you mean by I need this to be happy? What do you mean by that?
I mean, maybe not the sense of like the word would like be happy, but there's parts of us that would say be whole. And I think that there's like, in my mind, there was a sense of like, you know what, if I don't go out and I don't see people,
Yeah.
and if I don't feel, and if I don't kind of give myself that exercise, I've always been in those environments.
Yeah.
COVID and whatever it is, there's been transitions and stuff. I've just never been in a place where I went, wow, like, because obviously I left and I fulfilled.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the final conclusion. And I looked back and I came home and I remember like talking to myself and I was like, wow, I really do have to kind of check that box off in my life. And I never realized that. And I think that a lot of people probably don't know that there's certain things that if you do those things, then you're going to feel much better. I mean, I run a daily routine and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But man, it didn't have to do with the working out. It actually had to do with the people.
Yeah. Well, people aren't people without people. Ooh. You know.
Well, that could get you messed up. People.
Oh, well, the worst place you can possibly be in Earth is solitary confinement. People go crazy if they don't get, like, they even the people in solitary confinement, they say, hey, this person needs to be let out of the cell at least 4 hours a day, or else we know what's going to happen. They go insane, you know, because we are created for socialism. Well, not socialism. That's not being social. Don't quote that one. But
let's see how that goes. That goes on a capitalistic podcast.
Right, that is not what I meant to say. But we're created to be social, and that's where we thrive. Like, even not many even entrepreneurs make it without having other people around them. That's why we have masterminds. That's why we have so many things that involve other people. You don't see any super wealthy CEOs that don't have an amazing team underneath them. It's very rare to be that solo shot author. You know, even authors have the right team to get them their workouts and all that type of stuff. So you really need those people. Avery, yes. Here, you want to say hi, Avery? No.
Come on down.
What? I'll be done in about 30 minutes. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. That was my daughter.
Special guest Wednesday. It's Christmas, brother.
Yep. But really, just to address what you're saying, is so many people, you're right, don't have a sense of purpose to their life. They don't even know why they were created, what they're really doing it for, and they're kind of wandering around aimlessly. So a lot of times, if you don't have this secure, this is what I was created for, this is what I'm here on earth for, done vision, even if it's not even real or right, as long as you have that vision, you all of a sudden go after it hard. And it's almost like that's the magic sauce, is being able to be in that tunnel right there. But if you don't have that, then you're going to be still searching for something that is the reason you're doing something, because without knowing the purpose of something, all you can do is misuse it. If you don't know the purpose of lights, or let's say a vacuum, and you didn't even never seen a vacuum before, you might think like, oh, this is just like, let's stand this up. This is a trash can that sucks things in. Oh, okay. And you're using it completely wrong until you know. Single. Yeah. Funny. But yeah, and that's why you need to know your purpose behind things, because if not, then so many people then go put years of time into things, however long, get to the end, and they're like, oh, now I'm lost. So then they have to search for the next thing. And that right there isn't a fun place to be. So really, it's finding that purpose that fulfills you. And that's why I even did this, because just a quick background of where I'm an IFBB pro. I've competed professionally. I've done all that. And the thing is I was the worst and the most depressed when I was the biggest and the most shredded, because the closer I got to that goal of being the best per se, I then had to be not only paying attention to things, but the moment one thing went wrong, it was like my whole world was derailed. Everything was like, even though I'm shredded, if I just remotely ate a cookie, I then would be ashamed to show my shirt off. Someone would be like, yo, show your six pack. Come on, you're shredded. I'm like, no. Because like I couldn't even harness what I was doing, because what was I doing it for? Well, the reason I was doing it for wasn't because I wanted to be the best and it was what my life purpose was. No, it was to be enough. It was because I was being made fun of my whole life since I was like 12, 13 years old, maybe even before that, to be noticed. I was shy when I was younger, being around girls. So it was like, oh, I'll be like this superhero kind of thing. And no matter what, there's this next level to things. So even if I could be walking around with all confidence, you then get onto the pro stage and then all of a sudden, boom, well, there goes my confidence, just got last place. And then your whole world's crushed. And that's what I've realized is with so many people in fitness is they're attaching this utopia of like perfect, this feeling that they're going to feel when they achieved something. Even with business, once I get to $1 million, then I'll finally have made it and I'll feel like I'm successful. Once I have my six pack, once I lose this 30 pounds, once whatever, insert statement here, I will feel some certain way. But then all of a sudden they get there and they don't. And that right there causes people major depression, many different mental issues. But what happens in fitness so many times is they establish this goal. And they say, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds, 40 pounds. Why? Because then I can get this done. Then I'll feel better about myself. Then I'll feel great. I won't be so self-conscious. Well, just so you know, the best looking people are usually the most self-conscious, so you know.
Very true.
Just so you know, but they get close to this goal. And then what they realize is they feel no different. They're just as angry. They're just as upset. They're just as sad. They're just as depressed. They're just as anxious. And so what happens is they then are forced with a decision. Keep going after this goal that now makes no sense because I thought it was going to fulfill me, or self-sabotage myself. And what normally happens is they self-sabotage things. So they go backwards away from the goal. But then they say, well, I haven't reached this goal because I self-sabotage myself. So therefore, this goal still makes sense. So now let me hop back on the train again. And I won't eat like that again. It's only been a week of getting off. I'm going to get back on it. So they work even harder and harder. And then they get close to it again. And then they're like, wait a minute. Then all of a sudden something bad happens again. They self-sabotage and they just end up in this circle of comfort, because if they were to achieve it, that would be even worse, because then they're feeling that way with the achievement. At least they can say, well, I haven't achieved what I needed to achieve because of me. So therefore, I know why I'm here. Woe is me. Well, if I can only do this and get there, then it makes sense. And they get stuck in this loop, because that's the two. Either you're unfulfilled by your goals or you get stuck in this loop. And that's what so many people are with fitness, because let's be real. Who said that all these normal people need to be working out like athletes? Like, who said they need to be lifting weights?
An entire program about that. Yeah, exactly.
Like it blows my mind. Like, it's because Under Armour gets in their ear and like, unleash the inner athlete. Like, it's true. Or who are we supposed to look like? Oh, we're supposed to look like this extreme athlete over here, or that NFL player over here, or that amazing celebrity that just got shredded in X amount of time. And we make all these goals to be these athletes. When you got 200 extra pounds on you, 80 pounds extra, you can't even go upstairs without huffing and puffing. And now you're supposed to be doing burpees and squats.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. They're literally becoming things they're not to try to be something they're not, instead of looking at themselves and saying, who am I? What am I doing? What do I need?
Conversation, they always say, get stuck, get lost in the process. And I think it's really interesting because these two go along. Chasing money is very close to chasing the perfect physique.
For sure.
And there's another thing too. And I'm probably going to put my foot in my mouth, but the reality is the people that get to that, like where you're trying to go, there is a different mentality at that level. I mean, there's a lot of loss at that level, but there's a reason for that. There's a lot of sacrifice that it takes to get to where you really want to go. I had a gentleman who I'd met him in an evening, and we ended up going and meeting back up, and him and his wife, and then we ended up catching up together or whatever. It was really cool. He was a billionaire. He's a straight billionaire. And his story was very interesting. We're sitting there, and actually the event we went to, I'd never done this before, but it was in a winery out here. And we had gone out there and we were talking or whatever. He's like, oh, reason we're here. I was like, yeah, I just thought you invited us. He's like, no, we're gonna do some grape stomping. So we're in these buckets, stomping grape with no shoes on and everything like that. And it was like, at that moment, I was like, does that mean everybody's feet hit the wine that you're gonna drink? Because I had a brain mistake. I was like, I don't know if this is the right thing. Looking over at Miss May's toe, I was a little nervous. But ultimately, his conversation struck me. And actually, it happened to someone else that just actually yesterday. I was talking to a good friend of mine. But we had gone back and just hanging and talking and stuff. And he goes, yeah, man. He goes, I used to own a construction business, and we did concrete. And he built this massive concrete business, and it crashed, right? And he's like, man, I pretty much lost everything. And I'm looking at the guy, and I'm like, okay, here comes the rip, because something happened in your life, something changed, obviously. And he's all, yeah, man, kind of lost everything. And he's like, he goes back, and basically what his story is I ran into a friend of mine, Walton, and he said, hey, do you want to do snacks? And he ended up being the distributor for the snacks for Walmart. And I remember just going, holy smoke, you've got to be happy, right? Like in my mind, I'm younger at the time. Like, yeah, hey, you've got to be happy. Well, there was two things going on. One is him and I were at the same party, and our bank accounts did not look the same. Yeah. So we're having a good time, right? But his statement that he said, he goes, man, I really miss those years. I miss those years. It was really hard. He's all, because I don't really get those anymore. And I think to your conversation, it's like to get to the top, it's there. But in business or in health or whatever it is, that it's really not there. And that's not really hard. That's like, that's some real deep down, like difficult to make a decision to go do anything. Like you're trying to tell me there's nothing on the mountain. And I had a friend of mine sell his house just the other day, and he made a big chunk of money or whatever. He runs a business. He does pretty well. And he's, I've talked to him for a long time, consulted with him for a long time and everything like that. And we had worked on some stuff that we were working on, some goals and stuff. And he was hitting them. And just the other day, he sold his house and he made a chunk of money. And his statement was, I just don't know what I'm going to do with the money. And I was like, man, that's what you've been doing this whole time. You've been working your tail off, building your business because you wanted to be able to sell it. And now you've got this chunk of money, which is equivalent to selling it. Maybe a little less. You're all good, man. You got to check it out. It's all good. I'm a human.
I like it, Ed. Just give me a little bit more time. I'm on a podcast, okay? No, but yeah, definitely for sure. And I read a book. It's actually, I'm not saying that I'm the biggest fan of this pastor, but he his name's Stephen Furtick. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he wrote a book called Greater. And in this book, it basically is saying, hey, there is no perfect utopia, great place, best place to be. But what you can do is you can be greater, which means you have to define where you are now and just be one little bit better than that. Because if this to say that, oh, I'll be great or be awesome or I'll have made it once I get there. Well, then how are you going to be greater than that? You see? And that's what all these problems, like you're saying, this billionaire and this other guy is having is they get to this place and then you ask them, well, what's next? And since they can't even say what's next, now they're right back to almost square one of being like, wow, I'm lost. What do I need to do until they find some greater purpose? And that's why what I do is I establish where people are and figure out just how they can be one step better. Oh, you know, to eat more and concern yourself less, to struggle less. That's one way to be better, to have less health issues, to have more energy. These are all things that could be breakthroughs, but maybe not see anything on the scale. That's why you start establishing what really matters to somebody. So then they can say, how are we going to measure it just being a little bit better, a little bit greater each time? Because that is why I ultimately stepped out of the normal mainstream fitness, of promising these better results, trying to get them to be at this place, because I see it left and right, especially in the pro world, especially at the pinnacle of the top.
Sure.
Most people are insane up there. They don't know what to do next. All they have is it. And if they can be on stage, standing next to the person, be the best they've ever been, and not get rewarded simply by who they were standing next to. Because that guy just happened to be a little bit taller and that guy just happened to be a bit taller. So I guess they're not rewarding short guys today. You know, like little things like that that just make no sense. But it's because, where do you go from there? Why are you really doing it? Now, some people may have this goal to be there and use that as a launch pad to be bigger things, and there's greater things. Great. But a lot of us and a lot of people, it's like, okay, now what? Now what? And all through the hundreds and almost thousands of people that I've worked with throughout my whole entire career, if you don't have that next, you're either not going to get there, or I just made things worse. Because if you get there and you lose all this weight and you put your body through literally so much struggle and stress and abuse and all that, and feel just as bad, guess what happens? You don't do what you were just doing anymore. Whatever diet you were just on, keto, this, that, whatever method it was, if you get there and you don't feel fulfilled, you'll give it up, because it's hard. It's hard to do that, especially if you're doing any of these weird diets or anything. You'll give it up. And what happens is then all of a sudden the body goes thunk, and it's slow. Who knows what happened during that time. And you go back and now you're this much more heavy. You're this much more out of shape. And now it's 10 times harder to even get there again. Why? Because there's no reason to get there. You already know it. And so you get these people giving up, and now they have an excuse for that now. It's called age. They just, I've just gotten older. It just doesn't come off like it used to, you know? And it's like, no, age is just an excuse for doing the wrong thing longer.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
That's it. That's what age is, because age doesn't matter. I'll show you an 80-year-old that's more fit than a 23-year-old, you know. They're always around. It's just, what were they doing different? What they were doing different is, they weren't putting their whole life's work into this fitness thing of make it or break it. It was just what they did. It was just a process of enhancing who they are already. And that's why that's what I do with my fitness is, like I said, it's not about the results and promising all these things. It's like, no, I help them submit their health and fitness to Christ and experience the quality of life God intended for them. And because then that quality of life didn't say, oh, you're going to be stuck in a gym, all this. No, it's to live fitness. What is fitness? In biology, it's the ability to thrive in your environment and reproduce. That's biology.
I thought it was to strike my testosterone, because that feels really dang good.
Well, but that's reproduce right there. That's what health is. The health of an individual, the fitness of an individual is to complete the task, your fitness level, and to be healthy. If you go just Google the definition of fitness, you know, is also to be healthy. But in order to reproduce, you have to be healthy. The healthier you are, the longer you'll be able to reproduce. But a lot of people cut it off at the 40 level. Why? Because age. No, because they were doing the wrong thing all during their 30s and their 20s.
I'll tell you, I'm cracking those days, and I'll tell you, you know what? There's kind of some benefit too, because there's also a lot of some mental things that you don't even think about that you used to think of. I mean, there's some things that you're just like, I don't give a crap about that anymore.
Yeah, you lose your ego.
And then you could just, there's a lot of that. I think it's kind of funny. I mean, this is kind of off the rail, but I think it's always funny as people are getting older, you know, say like, you know, someone in their 60s or so. And, you know, I'm fortunate. I have a father who still goes to the gym 5 days a week. He's
Yeah.
in his 70s and he's a crusher. He's in the gym at 4:00 in the morning and
Oh,
he's
nice.
72. And at the end of the day, you look at kind of age or whatever, and you're like, no, it's kind of been your pattern the whole time. It didn't really matter. I mean, he was doing that when I was young,
Yeah.
I mean, we'd go to the bars when I was super young. We'd coming home. I'd be like hiding a bottle, and he'd be out there stretching at 4:00 in the morning. I'd be like, okay, well, I mean, but that was my role model. You kind of have those type of people. So you touched on it a minute ago, and one of it was, I think it was, and I kind of tracked your story. I always like to do my homework, and I found that it was like 2017, maybe right around then, the end of 16. That's when you started to kind of go, wait, I'm going to kind of make that transition from being a fitness person, and I know this experience, to then doing business. How was that transition for you? Because I think there's a lot of people that can connect with that, because you did hit the heights of being on, the higher stages and things like that. So, there was a, kind of bring this up. It was Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson's sitting with a guy on his podcast, and the boxer was he's a pro boxer, and he's like, man, I would never fight Jake Paul or any of those guys, right? He's like, I'm a prize fighter. And then the only guy in the world that could actually just say this, I mean, to that level, really. Yeah. And literally, Mike Tyson goes, you ain't a prize fighter. And the guy's like, what are you talking? You see this ego? He's like, what are you talking about? He goes, you're an entertainer, and don't you ever forget it. And the guy's face was like, I guess you're right. But it's someone like yourself that, going forward and being somebody and being a role model at that level, then being able to transition, you become the coach, you now become the coach. What was that like for you? And then transitioning to generate, the other side of it.
Well, so my whole career, I started really training in 2011. So I was a coach for other people, starting to do things as well while I was still competing. But you could even tell that throughout my business, like, or at least personal training back then, that the focus was still on me. Like, even in my everyday conversation, even, I would say, okay, clients, it's the last 3 weeks of my competing, I'm not training anymore, and the real transition was for me getting to the top and all that, and realizing, wow, I'm back to the bottom. Really, once you get to the top, you realize you're at the bottom again. Once you make your first million, then you're like, great, cool, make it 2, then make it 5, then make it 10, be a billionaire then. And there's always this next thing. But for me, that's where I really had this identity crisis. If I was saying, what is this all for? Like, great, I was making 6 figures as a trainer at some points, and it's like, I wasn't any happier between making 10,000 a month, between 4,000 a month. It really didn't make much difference to me, but it really was about how many lives am I affecting positively? And that's what really keeps me going now, and really helps me turn the page, because I really started going 100% online during COVID, when that all started hitting, and built the program and all that. But even during that whole time, I still wasn't, in my opinion, helping people to the highest degree that I could. And even though I was coaching them, I'm giving them what they say they wanted, all these things, they would then get what they wanted, and then they would leave and go just to another coach because he does keto. Like, doesn't even matter. Like, it's like, wait, what? And then you watch them out with that coach, and they're doing keto, and all you hear is about their struggle to eat the whole time, how they're all of a sudden not able to be social with their husband, because I would know the husband or something like that. And then they start looking worse than what they did with me. But then and the husband will be telling me that, but she's all blinded by it. Like, there's all these things, and I was just like, I'm not really helping people here. Like, I help them get from point A to point B, but then how did I really help them? Because no one even speaks about what type of damage goes on trying to change your body like this, going from heavy to lightweight. If you're starving yourself while doing it, how much did you screw up your metabolism? How much did you shut things down just achieving that? Let alone just how much stress did you go through? Because if you're doing everything right, but you're constantly stressed out, you're harming yourself. Even if you're doing everything right, if you're in an environment of stress, then your body isn't going to be sitting there in that zen, like using other type of worldly terms, but in that peace, that comfort. So then the moment all of a sudden you get unstressed, what does that look like? Probably not doing anything that you're currently doing to get you to stay where you are.
Sure.
So then everything just drops off, and then you're just in another state of stress. So for me, that's when I really changed that gear, and I was like, I have to work with just Christians, because what else is life about for me? Like, life is all about Christ, because Christ is the ultimate true source of life. Christ is love. You know, Jesus is love. He was the creator for all of us. This is only a blip of the map. So if I really embody that, and I know that here's all this group of people that say they believe that too, yet don't really follow it or struggle to follow it, that's when I was like, this is where I belong. This is my ministry and my business. There's something much bigger than business for me, because I'm not actually somebody that's totally obsessed with money. I really don't care about money. Like I've said, I've made more, I've made less, and it never affects my happiness or anything like that. But what does affect it is when I feel like I'm truly helping people, then I'm truly changing lives, not just temporarily, not just artificially, but truly on a soul level, and for me, an eternal level for forever and ever. That's what really got me to change and start doing everything different in business. And you can now ask my clients, like, I keep my clientele low because I don't know what they're going to need. You need the 3-hour conversation, you get the 3-hour conversation. Some people are just, in, out. That's cool too. But it's really studying that person and saying, how can I help that person more today? Just the other day, I was helping somebody write their blog, proofreading their blog post, and that right there is what's stressing them out. And if that's what's stressing them out, that's probably the thing that's going to keep them from their workout. That's going to keep them from eating the calories or the food and getting the fuel they need. So if I can help on that level, that right there could do so much more good for their health and fitness than me saying, well, you should eat more calories. You should prep your food beforehand. It's really concerning yourself about the individual. And that's what I wish that all personal training would do, because I look at personal trainers, and I look at them as dog walkers. Dog walkers get the dog. They choose the leash, the length of the leash, the color of the leash, and which way they walk around the park or the gym per se. And at the very end, how long they stay at each station, at the very end, they go, good job, hand pat them, and they go on their way, dog walker. But a personal trainer or a dog trainer goes, what's the environment that they're living in? What are the current behaviors they are displaying? What are the current behaviors you want to see? What are the tricks you want to see them? What type of food are you eating? Are they malnourished? They ask all these other questions, but this isn't what personal trainers do. They just look and be like, oh, you want to lose weight and look better? Cool. Let's work out like an athlete. Has nothing to do with them. And then when they can't.
You nailed it, man. I think that I can tell, like, you found yourself a passion. I think you found, what you're all about. And I think that as a business, I think one thing people can learn from you is that you niche down to the type of person that you want to work with. You niche down to obviously how you can express that energy. It's not just, doing those things. How do people find you, man? I mean, this is your time to shine. And, obviously you run a business and everybody wants people to go. How do they find you, man?
So you can go right onto my website, which is www.y2fitness.com. That's actually WHY, just like Simon Sinek, start with Y. And that's 2TO fitness, because you got to think of what is your why to fitness. Why are you doing fitness? Your Y2 fitness. So that right there, my Instagram is the same thing, Y2 fitness. You can go on that. And those two places is where I really am doing all my business on.
Dude, Aaron O'Connell, you're for energy, bro. Keep it up, man. I mean, you've shared an incredible story. You know, hopefully I get to have you on again. This has been an incredible thing from me. Obviously, we got along super good.
Or maybe I can have you on mine, because my podcast will be probably released by the end of January. It's going to be the Y2 Fitness podcast. So it's going to be talking about people's why to their fitness or their health or reasons why, but also it'll be about answering questions. I'll be having a lot of people write and be like, hey, why do I do this? Can't I have that? Why, and I'll be answering those things as well. And also I'm writing the book, which is called The Why Way. That should be out within the first month as well. And the Why Way is really my program to the Y2 Fitness. And that's really just how to be healthy and fit without struggling or stressing. So
I appreciate you, man. Been an incredible guest. Thanks for joining us on the Moved Entrepreneur Evolved podcast. Aaron O'Connell, thank you so much, brother.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Jason.
If you like this episode, make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just like Nike is to athletes, Moved is to entrepreneurs.